Did you know over 57% of students engage in sexual intercourse by the time they're in 12th grade? Only 53% of sexually active students are practicing safe sex, probably because they're not being educated properly. Abstinence-only education is not a sufficient form of a sex education in schools. Most sexual education programs in America favor an abstinence-only education over a comprehensive sex education. This problem causes higher rates of teen pregnancy, sexually transmitted infections, and HIV and AIDS in teenagers. The best solution to this problem would be to require comprehensive sex education in all high schools around America. Being educated with a comprehensive sex education, I learned the importance of every topic covered. Unfortunately, most students do not receive the education I did. Rather than receiving a well-rounded sex education, most students are only taught to stay abstinent. That means that when students choose to become sexually active, they do not have the sexual health knowledge nor tools that can protect them against dangerous situations. Less than half of the high schools and only 1/5 of middle schools are teaching all 16 topics recommended by the CDC. Hundreds of millions of dollars are being funneled into abstinence-only education programs that are not in accordance with CDC recommendations. In a survey done across the states to assess the percentage of high schools in which teenagers taught each of the 16 topics, here's what they found. 21 to 89.5% taught all 16 HIV, STD, and pregnancy prevention topics. That means in some states, only 21% of teachers taught everything that should have been. 15.5 to 69.2 taught all 11 performance skills for HIV, STD, and pregnancy prevention topics. Only 26.2 to 93.3 taught how to correctly use a condom, and 40.5 to 100% taught the importance of using a condom alongside another form of birth control to prevent both STDs and pregnancy. Despite learning abstinence as the best and frankly only option, students continue to have sex. With abstinence-only education, teen pregnancy rates along with STD transmission is skyrocketing. According to the CDC's Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance of 2017, 57.3% of students have sex by the time they're in 12th grade, 9.7% have more than 4 sexual partners, and 28.7% are currently sexually active. Of these students, only 53.8% of them used a condom, 28% a form of hormonal birth control, and only 8.8% used both. Using hormonal birth control alone does not protect against HIV and AIDS nor any other STDs, therefore spreading them without students even being aware of it. In a survey analyzed by Planned Parenthood, it is reported that 43% of females and 57% of males did not receive any information about birth control prior to having sex for the first time. The fact is, high school students are engaging in sexual activity without knowing the dangerous outcomes that has caused high teen pregnancy rates. According to Abstinence-Only Education and Teen Pregnancy Rates, Why We Need Comprehensive Sex Education in the U.S., Stanger Hall finds that the pregnancy rate in the U.S. exceeds the pregnancy rate of other countries that teach comprehensive sex education. Our pregnancy rate is 72.2 out of every 1,000 girls aged 15 to 19. France is 25.7, Germany is 18.8, and the Netherlands is 11.8. On top of this, he found that every state has different pregnancy rates based on their education laws. States that stressed abstinence had a rate of 73.24 pregnancies. States that emphasized abstinence had a rate of 61.86 pregnancies. And states that only covered abstinence had a rate of 56.36 pregnancies. That shows that the more well-rounded the education, the less teen pregnancies. In fact, abstinence-only education does not prevent against pregnancy. It almost encouraged it. With this evidence, it doesn't make sense that we continue to teach this way. A comprehensive sex education program will educate students to make informed decisions regarding their sexual health. Comprehensive sex education is a form of sex education that teaches students all 16 of the CDC's recommended topics, including abstinence, in addition to STD prevention, safe sex practices, and healthy relationship practices. This solution will work by educating people in high schools of the risk that come with unsafe sexual practices. Learning the dangers of unsafe sex will prevent people from doing so, along with preventing and reducing the number of people with HIV, STDs, and unwanted pregnancies. There are parents that feel they should teach sex education themselves. They believe sex ed sexualizes students and encourages dangerous and promiscuous behaviors, along with presenting health risks. In a study done about 21st century parent-child sex communication, it was found that more discussions around condom use were associated with more protected sex acts, therefore reducing health risks. Additionally, Timothy Wang found that providing condoms in school did not encourage adolescents to start having sex earlier or even more often. He did a study in Chicago and New York. In New York, he handed out condoms in schools. In Chicago, he did not. He found that the sex rates of teenagers were nearly the same in both New York and Chicago. With all this evidence showing abstinence-only education as harmful rather than beneficial, it's surprising we have yet to adopt a new method of teaching sex education. Students are not being educated to make informed decisions when it comes to having sex. This is because the majority of America uses either an abstinence-only education program or an abstinence-emphasized education program. Abstinence education does not protect our teenagers and their futures. The fact is that most schools still teach only abstinence, even with extensive research that proves it is ineffective. Teaching abstinence only keeps students misinformed and leads to pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases, including HIV and AIDS. The best solution to this problem would be to make comprehensive sex education part of the mandatory education requirements across the United States needed to graduate high school. Thank you very much for your time.